Hi guys, my name is Ep02, the host of Unscripted with Liv, a podcast that will change your life. I'm talking about raw, relevant, yet relatable conversations with go-getters, trendsetters, and inspirational figures. Another week, another episode. Welcome back to my podcast channel. My name is Ep02, the host of Unscripted with Liv. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this podcast with two of your favorite people. And if you've been a consistent listener, I just want to say thank you for the love and for the support. Don't forget to subscribe. Also, if you haven't done that already, and share it with two of your favorite people. Now, today's conversation is a little bit on the edge, more so because I'm having a conversation with a friend. But wait. Let me rewind that. Rose, am I your friend?
Oh my goodness.
Let's start from there.
How can I even say no even if I wanted to?
In
but
front
yes,
of the camera.
Olivia, you are my
Okay.
friend.
Just for this particular episode, Rose and I are friends, okay? Period.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so we're basically having a conversation around intimate partner violence, which is a very strong topic, something that I did mention that I was going to speak about on the podcast, more so because I've seen a lot of people experience it. And I think to some degree I might have experienced it myself, but then we're going to unpack all that and more in today's episode. So make sure to stick around up until the end. Now, before we get into all the crazy, busy issues, like sensitive topics, I have 3 icebreaker questions that I'm going to ask you.
Okay.
I might respond depending on how
it goes.
Yes, how it goes.
Okay.
So the first question is, what is your favorite item you've bought this year?
Favorite item that I've bought this year. I'd give it to the carpet in my room.
Ooh.
I really, really love that carpet.
I think when you start picking household stuff as your favorite things, just know you're growing.
I'm growing, guys.
Wait, I haven't bought anything this year, like anything tangible. Most of my expenses are around food and airtime, and so I don't have anything in particular that's my favorite.
Okay.
Yeah. Why do you like the carpet though?
It's got an abstract kind of print to it.
Yeah.
And the colors aren't deliberate. And there's one color, one section of the cut that's just purple.
Ooh, and I know you love purple, lavender too, right?
Yeah. So it's like the only part of the carpet that's purple, and I feel like that's pretty unique because all of the other colors are in a sequence and a pattern except that very one.
Ooh, I think the carpet chose you.
I think so too.
Yeah. The second question is, what do you have planned for your birthday this year? Fun fact, guys. Rose and I sort of almost would have shared a birthday.
True.
My birthday is on the 27th of February. Hers is on the 28th of February.
Very close.
Super close.
Maybe even a few hours apart.
Right? Mm-hmm.
Well, I have to be viewer friendly on my options. So I'm not going to
celebrating your birthday.
Say what I really, really want to do on my birthday.
Yeah.
That's like my personal secret. But for everybody else's ears and the safety of everybody listening, I think I just want to sleep really. And I've done a lot of introspection from the beginning of the year about who I am and my personal development, and which I've been very deliberate about in the past few years. So for my birthday, really, if I don't sleep, I will probably spend it eating and listening to music.
Ooh. Well, I love the fact that there's food. And for my birthday, this is my Jordan year. Okay, I'm going to be 23.
Ooh.
Hey, big 23.
I'm just thinking about all of the things I did when I was 23. But yes, give it to us.
And I honestly don't have a plan yet. But I think I might do a lot of solo things this year because I just want to introspect and just look back at my life and see what I want for the next chapter. Yeah, so I might do a dinner alone.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yes.
And just look cute, pretty for me, nobody else. But of course, the gram will see because I'm in.
Please carry someone who's going to take the pictures because
don't worry,
we need to keep track.
Yes. If it didn't capture it, it didn't happen. Yeah. The last question: if you're given the chance to change your gender, would you?
Really, because when we first spoke about this podcast, you said we have to be as candid as possible.
Yes.
So I'm going to throw in something. Yes, I would change my gender for one reason only.
Which is?
I find it very intriguing, the man body. I'm a firm believer that the female body is the best thing God ever made. But I feel like there's something interesting about being a man.
Being a man, yeah.
I wouldn't want to be a man my whole life, but like for a few hours,
Maybe.
I would like to be a man just to experience really just the way the body is made. You know, not have boobs for a few hours and not have hips for a few hours.
Yeah.
And, you know, just the male genitalia to just experience it just for the sake of experiencing. And maybe use it, you know. But yeah.
Personally, I don't think I would like to change my gender. For some weird reason, I absolutely love being female. Like, I love 100%, and I don't even want to know what's on the other side. Yeah. So I think I'm comfortable. I mean, the male body is intriguing, yes, but I feel like there's nothing much to it.
No, there's nothing much to it.
Yeah.
But really, I just want to know, like, you know, what is it like
to be a man?
To be a man, you know?
To be a man, yeah. Now tell me, how was your childhood like growing up? Were you a social butterfly? Were you know, like in your space? Because judging by the way you are now, one would think you've always been this child who doesn't really care. Like, I'm in my business. I'm going to do my thing, okay?
Oh, wow. Well, growing up, I was a very curious child, I think. I was always asking questions. I always wanted to know stuff. I wanted to understand how I'm related to my siblings, because a lot of my siblings are much, much older than me.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to know, like, how am I related to this 30-year-old? How am I related to a woman who's married with kids?
Right?
You know, like, I was really asking a lot of questions.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be somebody that I know for sure. And I spent a lot of my childhood rehearsing being a journalist or traveling the world and vlogging. Before I knew what vlogging was, I was practicing under a mango tree.
Ooh.
And so, like, I had a lot of dreams, and I was really an ambitious child growing up. And a lot of that changed. Like, there are a lot of things that happened in my life as a child that changed my outlook on life completely.
Yeah.
And I think I'm going to share more of that in this
as
episode, you know, as we go on. But there was a really huge shift. And I feel like when I look back at the child in me, I would have never thought I would be here. Because, like, the child in me was really ambitious. I was thinking I would leave Zambia when I'm 10 years old. You know, like, I had big dreams, guys.
Okay,
you know,
okay.
I was like, when I'm 10 years old, I will not be in Zambia anymore. I'll be in another country.
Yeah.
I would imagine how I would be friends with, like, the white kids and the cool kids, how I'd be a dancer or something like that. My childhood has been like that, like really just ambitious, playful, very inquisitive child,
go-getter mentality, right?
Yes.
Now, would you say the shift happened when something drastic happened to you, or it was just meant to happen either way, like shifting from being inquisitive, being ABCD, to the person you are now?
I think I would have never, like, there would have never been a shift if that part of my life didn't happen. And I think it's like the realization of it that altered my life.
Yeah.
Like, if it happened and I never knew what it was and what it meant, maybe it wouldn't have such a huge impact on who I have become. But with the realization of it and knowing, like, okay, this is what happened and this is what I've experienced. So it just, like, kind of, you know, turns your whole world upside down.
Yeah. Now, we're speaking about intimate partner violence, but I also understand to say there's, like, different violences or abuse that people encounter in life, of which you've experienced it as well. Can you tell us a little bit more of your own experience?
Okay. I have been sexually abused. I've been molested, and I have experienced rape in my life, and a lot of it is by, like, the people that should have
protected you,
been, like, my guardians, you know what I mean? Like, it being that it was my brother who was the first person to do something like this.
How old were you?
I think I was like 8 years old. That's as far as I can remember. And we're living in the same house with this guy, my brother, you know?
Like your biological older brother?
Yeah, like my mom's son.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
this went on for a while. And even when I told my mom about it, she kind of just rubbished me, you know. And like a lot of the times, even now as an adult, and I sit and I think about it, like why would a mother not believe her daughter? Or why would a mother rubbish something so serious, you know?
I mean, would you also say in her defense, it was a little bit different from like the time she grew up in? And also I think the time you were 8 years old, there wasn't enough safe space for people to come out and say, oh, this is what's happening to me. Or maybe it also depends on the form of abuse that you experienced, or the, you know.
I feel like with my mom, I don't want to make excuses for her, which I think I have made excuses for her a lot in my past. But I hate to say that maybe I kind of understand. I didn't know my mom very well because we didn't have that kind of relationship where we got to know each other. But from what I experienced with her, I could, you know, assume that she may have also been abused in her past. And I could also assume that it was very hard for her because it's like her daughter and her son. And like it was evident with like no question, my mom did love her sons more than she loved her daughters. May God rest her soul. My mom's dead.
Oh, my condolences.
My mom died like last year. And so I think for her, she was like in the middle, like, who do I defend? Who do I believe? And maybe it was so much easier for her to just brush it off and behave like it didn't happen, so she can be able to live with herself.
I see. Now, how long was the abuse, and did your brother stop, or he had to move, or you had to move? How were the dynamics like?
Well, it went on for a few years, and like it started to shift, you know, like when it was happening, he would walk in on me when I'm asleep. So I'll just walk into a man on top of me with a lot of semen on my clothes. And then it became games, and would do it while we're awake. And it's not like he just stopped because he wasn't interested anymore, but it's because I told my mom about it. And
did your mom ask him?
Yes, my mom asked him in my presence. Like, you know, there was my mom and my brother's wife at the time. So I told my mom, and then she called him, and then she asked him, are you doing these things? And he was like, no, how can I be doing something like that? And so my mom turns to me and she says, you shouldn't be lying, you know, like this could get somebody arrested and what. So it made me feel like, I'm just imagining these things, right? And it's like a lie. There's 2 adult women here that I'm telling these things, and they're not believing me.
And you are around 8 years old?
Yes, and I was like 8 or 9, you know, when this was happening. And my brother just kind of like discontinued, and that kind of roughed up the relationship between me and him, because during the time that he was doing this kind of thing, he was really nice to me, always buying me gifts, always being nice. And I always tell people, like, you know, abusers come in different forms. It's not everyone that's going to like threaten you and tell you, if you ever tell anyone, I'm going to kill you, or I'm going to do something. Some of them just are really nice to you. They make you feel like what they are doing is right and you're deserving, you know? And that's how it was with my brother. And it wasn't just my brother that did these things. There were other men in my life that I got exposed to that did similar things. And before I was like 12 years old, by the time I was 12 years old, I had like 3 men that had already touched my body. And even when I told my mom about it, she didn't pay it any attention. And I can't seem to understand why, you know?
And I hear you when you speak about not wanting to give excuses for your mom and all that, which is, I think, it's every parent's responsibility to take whatever their child is going to say, especially a girl child. Now, after you experienced 3 different men sexually abusing you, at what age did you then seek help or find a space where somebody actually said, yo, this is real and we need to take up action?
Well, when I was 12 years old is when I got to understand, like, okay,
this is what
happened, and this is what it means. Because I found out from school, like in my grade 7 or grade 6 class, where my class teacher sat with us and she was talking to us about puberty and telling us, like, your bodies will change, you get hips, you get boobs. So when you start menstruating, this is how you should fold your pad, and this is how you wear a pad. So like, from all of that, she started talking about bodies. Like when somebody touches you here, you tell an adult. And so when she was saying all those things, the puzzle was coming together in my head, because I was like, somebody touched me like that.
Yeah.
That happened to me. And I couldn't come out and tell my teacher, like, that happened to me. I started asking the girls in my class, like, have you ever experienced this before? Like, has this ever happened to you before? And they were all saying, no. And so immediately I self-alienated myself, thinking, I'm the only person this has happened to. There's something wrong with me.
Yeah.
Because, like, why hasn't it happened to the people in my age group? So there's something wrong with me. There's something about me that's making these things happen. And I started blaming myself. And I became a very angry child at 12. I think a lot of my siblings, if they were here and you would ask them what my life was like between like 13 and 20, maybe even up until now, some of them would tell you, like, I'm a very angry child, or I used to be an angry child. I was very disrespectful. I was acting out all the time. And this was because there was so much anger and betrayal built up in me. And so, like, I was just, acting out.
Feeling as though they should have protected you, but they didn't. Now, would you say you've fully healed from that experience? And also, before you answer that question, I think the question I should ask is, so after you discovered that that's not right, did you report still, or maybe you just said, you know what, I'm gonna be angry, but I'm just gonna let it slide?
After I found out what had happened, I went home, and on the news it was being reported, and the adults around me were like, it's wrong. And my mom was there saying, oh, anybody who can touch my child, I can kill them.
Oh, wow.
And I'm just like,
woman,
I told you though, and you didn't do anything. But here in front of everybody, you want to look like you can actually do anything about it. And so that was just building more anger in me, because I'm like, you're telling me that you can protect me, but
you're not protecting
every chance you've gotten to protect me, you've not done that. And so I didn't talk to anybody after that. I think I started talking about my experience again when I was like 13 or 14, when I met a guy from my school, and he became my best friend. He's still my best friend up until now. Ooh. And I would talk to him about these things. I think if there's somebody that has seen me grow and heal, is that particular guy, because he's been there in my life when it was bad, and when it was getting better, he was there. So I can't say there's like fully healing. I would be lying. And like I would hope for like full healing for any survivor of sexual violence. And I can't say for sure, because there are certain days when you just wake up and life is just, bad. You hate yourself and you remember what happened. Everything. Or you could go to sleep and have nightmares about it. You could wake up and be triggered in a conversation with men. And I always tell like my friends that it's something that lives with you for the rest of your life, because even when you walk in, you can't walk past a place with more than 2 men. You're going to be thinking, will I make it like past these men without them trying to jump me or them trying to rape me? You can't be in a room with just men and not be thinking about 10 different things these men could possibly do to you. So it's like you live with it for the rest of your life. You just learn how to live with it. It just becomes more bearable, and the pain doesn't completely go away, but like you just learn to live with it
and become more bearable. I absolutely love that. Now you've spoken about how you were abused as a child, but then you also were abused as an adult. You experienced rape. At what age did that occur?
Well, like I experienced rape when I was 17, and when I was in university, but those are experiences I wish to not talk about, because like I'm still trying to forgive myself for those times, mainly because there's a lot of self-hate and blame that come immediately after being raped or violated sexually as a human being. And this just doesn't go for women, it also goes for men that have been violated. The immediate response is just hating yourself. Like, how can you let this happen to you? Especially when it happens to you as an adult. You're like, how could you let this happen to you? Where were you? What were you thinking? And it's even before the rest of the environment or the community starts asking you these questions, you start asking them to yourself, because that's just how we're conditioned. We are born or raised in communities where sex and sexual violence is so normal. Like here in Zambia, if a man went to a police station and said, I've been raped, the police will die laughing. They'll just be like, what were you thinking? You know? And there's this idea that if it's not painful, then it was okay. It wasn't rape, you know? Or like if you enjoyed it at any point, then it's okay. Or if you consented and withdrew your consent, then it's okay. I think
a lot of people don't even speak about withdrawn consent.
No.
Like one thing that I realize and understand is that consent can be withdrawn at any stage of the act.
True.
And the minute you say no, stop, the person has got to stop. But if you said yes at the beginning and then it's like you said yes, you know, and I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I don't think there's like a lot of laws that are surrounding this whole idea of rape, defilement and stuff like that. But now we're speaking about intimate partner violence today. Like I stated earlier, more so because it's something that I have seen occur in people's lives, and this is something that is sort of on the rise. But just for that one person who's watching or listening, how would you define intimate partner violence?
Well, for intimate partner violence, it's any form of violence that is done by an intimate partner. So this could be your current boyfriend, or let me use gender neutral language, your current partner, your previous partner, or someone that you're just dating,
your would-be partner.
Your would-be partner, you know. And in Zambia, we don't really have it like highlighted as intimate partner violence, like in our statutes, but it's watered down or included in domestic violence. Yes. So intimate partner violence in Zambia is regarded as domestic violence. So it's any kind of violence, and it could be physical, it could be emotional, it could be psychological aggression. All of those fall under it could fall under intimate partner violence, as long as the person initiating or perpetrating it is an intimate partner.
So now, of course, there's like different forms of intimate partner violence, and I think one of the most noted is the physical, because like you can literally see it, like this person is beating me and stuff like that. But can you give examples of maybe the psychological, the emotional violence, the financial violence, if there's even such a thing?
Oh, well, like when we talk about psychological, we're talking about stalking, you know, stalking, threatening, when your boyfriend is telling you stuff like, oh, you know, couple guys especially, you know, I've heard this before. Oh, my che, one day now I'm on a bulleting, kakwika mkulu, and girls are like, oh, he loves me. No, that's not it. Like he's literally threatening your life, you know, and that on its own should flag off as possible intimate partner violence. Yes, he's just saying it, he hasn't done it, but what's the guarantee that he's not going to do it?
Now, how can one then detect what intimate partner violence really is? Because I think the fact that it's happening between you and someone who's very intimate to you, it sort of feels like, well, maybe, you know how we give excuses for why someone does something, like, no, he's nice though, he's not always like this, like he's probably just angry, like someone slaps you, like, no, he's just angry, but he doesn't usually do this, but like he's done it, you know, and chances are that he might repeat it. It could be words, it could be action. How do you detect it, especially the fact that it's coming from someone you strongly love, or at least like, in a way?
Well, I feel when it comes to intimate partner violence, you need to know yourself, because a lot of the times young people get into relationships, they don't even know who they are. They don't even know what they should tolerate. And a lot of violence you just don't wake up and become a violent person. It's coming back from your childhood, from how you are cultured, from how you are conditioned. So you need to look at this person objectively. Don't just be like making excuses for somebody's behavior or enabling their behavior. You need to look at this person and say, okay, this guy has a history of being violent. He's been beating his girlfriends, or he's been rumored to have been raping the women he's been with. And then you're just going there and saying, oh, I'll change him. No. This person, you literally know that this person comes from a violent background. So you need to know what you're getting yourself into, and tell the person, I can't get with you until you deal with this. And a lot of these things come from a trauma-inflicted background. So when you deal with the trauma and the things that are causing you to be this way towards other people, then you most likely not be a perpetrator of such things. But as a person who's on the receiving end, how are you going to know, like, okay, this guy is probably violent? It's in the way they talk. It's in the way they do things. And even just the way the person holds you. Yes, aggression, you're like, oh, me, I want a man who can corner me. But there's a way that you just know, like, okay, this kind of grabbing is not right. Or you find constantly losing his temper. When a person is constantly losing their temper with you, just know, like, they have the capacity to become violent, especially if they're short-tempered. Because I've seen women, and I've heard of women who've made excuses for men, like, oh no, he's just a short-tempered guy. It's me, I did something to make him feel this way. That's already a problem. And guys who isolate you from your friends, there are people who you've been in a relationship with, but they'll try their hardest to take you away from your people, friends, from your family, from the people you love. That's already a red flag. This guy's always going to tell you, like, oh no, I don't like your friends. I think your friends are jealous of our relationship, or your sisters don't like me. They just think I'm not good enough for you, but me, I'm doing everything I can. Just know that's a problem. Flag. Yeah, that's a red flag. And even when this person is constantly love bombing you, because there are 4 phases of violence. The first phase is where the person is just making threats or saying things like, oh, me, if you ever try to leave me, I'm going to kill you, And then now the other stage is where the person starts to plan, and here you can't tell because you're not in their mind. But this person is planning, like, oh, Olivia, one day. And the third one is where now they start to do these things. They start hitting you. They start talking to you in a bad way. They start calling you names. It's the action. Now they start to act it out. And the fourth stage is where they honeymoon you, It's like, I hit you and then I take you on a trip to Dubai. How are you going to leave me? And that's like the 4 phases of intimate partner violence. And this is how abusive men do what they do. They start by telling you in jokes. And as women, we tend to, like, ignore, or we become very passive, like,
especially when you love someone. I
don't know if we're blind to it or what, but we just don't pay attention. Because I don't know. I always say, believe somebody, what they tell you, believe them. The person is telling you, me I have a short temper. I get to a point where I just want to beat you, and you're just like, at least he's telling me the truth. He's warning me in advance.
He's being open about his actions.
Open about what he's going to do to you.
I feel you. And just getting back to what you said about, like, how do you detect intimate partner violence? I think being self-aware is very important, like you said, because you're able to set boundaries and you're able to dictate when someone is not treating you the way you want to be treated. So it's easy for you to leave because you know to say, okay, this is Olivia, this is what she likes. I can't tolerate this, so I'm leaving. Or no, one of my boundaries is that you're not supposed to do ABCD, so the minute you do it, I'm leaving. And also with regards to this whole idea of, like, saying you're appreciating him when he tells you something. I think when you just love someone, whatever they say just sounds right. Like, even if it's very toxic and it's wrong,
be like that.
And I feel like that's where the whole idea of self-awareness comes in, and also understanding that you are deserving of more. Understand that you're deserving of more. Like, no one is supposed to hit you. No one is even supposed to mention hitting you, whether they love you or they don't. Because I think if a random man walked up to you and said they will hit you, you would take it as a threat. You would want to go to the police. But if your partner says, oh, he loves me,
I don't know what that is about. But really, we need to move away from that. You need to love yourself enough to know what you're deserving of. Like you said, like, you should know that I deserve more. Like, this is not love. This is not how I should be treated. And I've noticed that a lot of women who tolerate this kind of violation come from a background where they are love deficient. Like, you've not been given enough love as a child, and then even as you grow, there's not a lot of love that you've been given, so you're willing to settle for any that they give you,
in
like
form of
any
love.
You're okay because you're like, okay, it's okay, because, like, at least it's 1% of the love, it's okay. So make sure even as you move on into sharing yourself and sharing your life with somebody, you have enough. Your love tank is full. You have enough to give you at 100%. Because you can't be going into a relationship saying, okay, I have 20%. Justin will give me my 80%. And that's a problem because now you'll be living off of this person. You'll be completely dependent on this person, which is not okay. And you're giving them a chance to violate you in turn.
I love that, because I think one of my friends asked me to say, you know, a lot of people tend to tolerate a lot of toxicity in relationships and just life in general. But she asked me to say, if you had a glass of water, right, and you were thirsty, and they tell you to say you can wait for like maybe 5 minutes and get normal water and drink, or there's a glass of water with a tiny bit of poison, and if you drink you're going to die, which one would you wait for? Which one would you take? You know, obviously would go for the one that's fresh water, clean and whatnot, right, as compared to the one with poison, whatever it is. And sometimes we tend to settle for less because we are in desperate need of love. Like, I want to be someone's person. I want to feel loved. I want to feel accepted. And so you will take whatever the person has. Oh, he loves me. It's just this one time. Or, well, at least even if he beats me, he gets me flowers, you know, and stuff like that, which shouldn't be the case. Now, what do you think are some of the causes of intimate partner violence? Like, what really triggers?
Well, I would still take it back to upbringing, you know, how you're conditioned growing up as a person. If you come from a background where violating women is normal, treating women like dirt is normal, that's what you're going to be doing. And if you don't know any better than that, that's all you're going to know. And that's all you're going to do as a human being. You are coming from a background where your father used to hit your mother and you believe that is how it should be. And if you don't know any better before you meet somebody, that's what you're going to be doing. And also, as a woman on this side, if you are so love deficient, like you're so desperate for love, you will settle for anything. And that's a problem. You need to be able to love yourself enough and say, like, okay, if I don't meet the love of my life,
it's okay.
In this
I
lifetime,
am the love of my life.
It's okay. I am the love of my life. But the problem is with women, we've been told, like, you know, by the time you're 25, at least you should be in a strong relationship with a man who wants to reach home.
You're supposed to be married.
Or wants to let out to
what. My sister, 25, you're supposed to be already married.
You know, people are telling you, like, if you make it to 30 and you don't have a boyfriend, like, then, you die alone, you'll be lonely.
Or like you're any less of a woman.
So it's got a lot to do with the society that we're in. Because society makes excuses for men's behavior.
Right.
They'll say, oh, he beat you. It's just once. I've heard women who've said stuff like, imwena imwe, bamtali, bamyuma kofye kamona imwe, ifwe bale tuma, you know? So I'm like, just because it happened to you,
shouldn't happen
it doesn't
to
mean
me.
it's okay. And just because you tolerated it doesn't mean it's okay. And so it has a lot of things to do with our society, because really in Zambia, we are at a point where rape is normal. Like, somebody can easily just say, oh, I raped somebody, and his friends will fist bump him. Oh, you're the man. You're the man. Somebody could say, I got raped, and everybody will be telling her, what were you thinking? Why were you at that house? What were you doing? Why were you home late? Why were you working at 18 hours? So it's like,
it's constantly trying to make excuses around the act.
There's so many excuses for the man's behavior. And there's a lot of pressure being applied to women to say, by this time, you should be married. By this time, you should have children. By this time. So, you know, the excuses of bad behavior and the pressure to be with this person with the bad behavior.
Sort of when just aligning people.
It's just like,
it's an alignment.
Let's violate each other. Like, let's just deal with each other. And that's a problem.
And also the fact that you've spoken about, like, the pressure that comes from society and just like the pressure in general. It's funny how, in the literal sense, we are society, you and I and everybody in this room, and, like, you know, people at home, like, we are the society. And it's funny how we sort of put pressure on ourselves, but then it becomes too much to handle, that we tend to just settle for whatever is available. And I'm gonna give you this practical example. I'm basically 22, but already I can feel the pressure building, you know? It's so crazy, because it's like, oh, your sister got married at 23. The other sister is engaged at 23. And then you're 22. You're not even in a stable relationship, man. What are you doing? You know? And it's not like they're constantly asking the serious questions. It's in the subtle conversations we're having. Oh, what umfuati nani? I'm like, okay.
Hey, when is yours coming?
Like, I heard, but like, if I haven't found the right person, then I won't be forced into getting into the space. And also just trying to make women understand to say, there's really more to your life. You know, marriage shouldn't be the end goal. Think of traveling the world, of being the greatest so-and-so. Like, you
managing director.
Yeah.
You know
like,
what I mean?
Think of exploring yourself and your life to the fullest, where you fully understand yourself inside out. So that even as you're settling with someone, it's not because you're being pressured or because somebody's telling you to do something. Now, I know we've spoken about how usually the pressure is on the women and the abuse is coming from the men. But I also do understand to say there are certain relationships that have a different dynamic where the man is the one who's being violated and the woman is the perpetrator. How then can a man handle that? Because I think you can't openly come out as a man and say, I'm being abused.
Why can't you?
I think it's because society again. Let's get back to we're blaming society. No, but okay, in the actual sense, we as people are the ones to blame because we haven't given men the environment or the platform to say, it's okay for you to report when you've been violated in a way, you know.
You know, like, Olivia, I feel that, you know, there's no one in this life that can advocate for your needs better than yourself.
I remember you said that once.
I always say, like, you know, women, we put ourselves out there. Like, for me, I've put my whole life out there.
To advocate,
you know?
for women.
Yeah, to advocate, like, to bring to life women's lived experiences. I've put my whole experience out there, right? You know what it's like when you walk into a room. Like, for you were just telling me off set, like off screen, you were telling me, like, for almost 3 years you sat with yourself wanting to ask me, and then you couldn't ask me,
and then I'm like, should I,
you know?
Like,
and focus. I go through that every day. Like, you can walk into a supermarket and somebody tells you, oh, I watched you on TV, and then you were talking about this. Did it really happen? You know, you put yourself out there. People now know, like, oh, this is what happened to this person. They already know your body count, you know? But, like, men need to put themselves out there. You need to dare to put yourself on the line. Because for me as a woman, I could come out and say, yes, men are also being violated, but I have no idea what that is like. So I will speak about it from an ally's point of view. But we need to get more men to speak up. And no, society is never going to be ready for a man to be vulnerable.
You just have to
society was not ready for women to work, for women to vote, for women to choose how many children they want to have, for women to choose whether they want to get married or not. Society was never ready for that. Women had to advocate. Women had to put their lives on the line, you know, to get any recognition, to get their needs met. So even men, like me, I'm challenging the men out there. Like, enough of this. No, why is everybody just focusing on women? And I've seen it even on Facebook. Men who comment on a story or a situation that has happened to a woman and be like, it also happens to men. So I'm like, it should not be you coming to this post to comment that it also happens to men. It should be you going out there in real life on the grassroots to talk to men and let men know, like, it's okay to be vulnerable, and to challenge the police officers when police officers laugh at men's lived experiences. Because even us as women, let's not forget, police officers still laugh. Police officers still question the credibility of our experiences. But we don't stop reporting. So men can't say, oh no, because they'll laugh at me, I'll just sit here and wallow or sulk. It's not going to achieve anything. You need to be ready to go out there and put your life on the line for you to get any form of recognition around your lived experiences. So yes, this is happening to men, but if men are not ready to talk about it, if men are not ready to look vulnerable and be vulnerable, then it's just going to continue happening. Because as women, there's only so much we can do. We also have our own issues to advocate for. Right? We have issues that we're fighting for. So men who feel like, you know, there's not a lot of recognition being given to men, or there's not a lot of consideration being given to men, it's time for you to get up, wear your shoes, and start demanding for this recognition. Already as women, we've continuously had women's marches. I've never heard men say, marching. We're going to march for our rights. We're going to march for what? So if you feel like you really are being violated and you really are being treated unfairly, get up and do something about it. And don't say, oh, you women who are advocating for yourselves, can you come here and advocate for us? It's not going to happen. We have so many issues that we're advocating for, and it goes beyond sexual violence, it goes beyond intimate partner violence. We are still fighting for recognition in a lot places of work. We're still advocating for equal pay. We're still advocating for whether we want to get married or not. You're 22 years old and you're already feeling the pressure
is
to get married, you know? So we're still fighting for that. We're still fighting early marriages where men are choosing to marry 13-year-olds, you know? So it's like, really, men, we're inviting you to the battlefield. Come and fight with us for your own rights. There's enough fighting space and there's enough, ammunition to fight, you know?
Yeah. Now, of course, while you're tuned in to Unscripted with Liv, make sure you're sipping on some good cup of coffee, tea, water, juice, or whatever beverage best suits your needs. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this particular episode. Now, do you think we have enough spaces or resources that are channeled to fighting intimate partner violence in Zambia?
Well, no, we don't.
Is it because people are not coming out, or it's because?
Well, really, our government, not just this government, but like governments before, have not done what they're supposed to do to ensure that they are actively fighting this kind of violence. And there are no shelters. So let's say if I am being violated by my boyfriend who I live with, or by a boyfriend I don't even live with, but he beats me.
And he knows where you stay.
Yes, he knows where I stay. He knows my whereabouts. If I go and report to the police, right? Yeah. There's nothing that the police can do to retrieve me from my place and give me a safer space where he can't find me. Yeah. The only safe spaces and shelters that are there are run by YWCA, right? And YWCA does not belong to the government. It's a non-governmental organization. So the government in itself does not have shelters. We've heard, I think it should have been 2015 or before that, when the government said they were constructing shelters, but we've not heard any update on that. We've not seen any shelters being commissioned. So the government has not been deliberate about providing safe spaces, but we do have safe spaces with non-government organizations. We have Kids Alive Zambia that provides safe spaces to young women and girls and boys that have been violated or that don't have homes or are being violated in their homes. But we don't have anything owned by the government. So you can imagine how much these NGO shelters are overwhelmed with how many people have to go there.
Because I'm also thinking, should we have a lot of people actually report every form of intimate partner violence or just violence in general, then the shelters are going to run out of space. Exactly. So there's more need for government to actually act on this.
We actually do have people that report. These domestic violence cases are being reported. I was looking at the statistics and it was showing that 43% and more of all of the cases that are reported, GBV cases that are reported, 43% of them are, on average, 43% of them are domestic violence cases, which includes intimate partner violence. So that's a really huge chunk, of violence being perpetrated either against men or against women. But there's not enough care and support, towards ensuring that these people are safe, to ensuring that these people get justice. The cases take too long. I was talking to somebody just a few weeks ago. They have been pushing their rape case for 2 years now. Whoa. They've still gotten no justice. They still go to court. 2 years,
so it's
a lot.
Because I'm thinking, imagine you report to the police to say somebody has been threatening me, and then you don't have a shelter where they can protect you. And then, or maybe there's even some evidence of violence against you, and then first you're not put under a shelter for protection or anything like that, and then this person is roaming the streets. Chances are that this person can come at you and completely finish you off, and so I feel like there's more need from the government to act on it.
I agree.
Because if we're going to advocate for people to come out and say, yo, speak about those things, if you're being violated in any way, sexually, emotionally, physically, report. But then it's like, what then after I report? What happens?
So we need to ensure that the government puts in the necessary measures, because it goes just beyond being raped. Yes, when you're raped, there's all of that physical damage and physical trauma that happens. But like, there's a lot of psychological and emotional damage that is caused that needs to be fixed. So the government, yes, they can say, oh no, when people report, we do a rape kit. No, we at least the cases get to court and all those things. But like, what happens to the survivor after? Like, how do we integrate them back into society? Because you know, there's too much damage that is caused there that you really need a lot of therapy to be able to rebuild yourself to what you once was, and then, you know, being integrated back into society and being as active and productive as you were.
I absolutely love that. Now we're coming to the end of the episode. We'll probably need you for a part 2.
Sure,
because I feel like there's a lot more that has to be spoken about. Now, describe the future that you would like to live in.
Well, the future I would like to live in is pretty plain and simple. But like, it's also very, a lot of people will say it's unrealistic.
I want to hear it.
I see a future where, you know, women and men treat each other with respect, and, you know, where men don't violate women or treat women like a piece of property, where
objectifying women.
Where men's behavior is not enabled, you know, because we have a system like the patriarchal system. It continuously works in favor of men, allowing for men to do just about anything and everything they want, and letting them go scot-free. So I see a future where there's no patriarchy, you know, where men act right, and where women can hold men accountable for and where actions. Women love themselves enough to not allow to be treated any kind of way, you know, not to allow themselves to be treated as less of humans. So that's the kind of life I think I see, where women can choose what they want, where women can make their own decisions, you know, with no judgment, with no fear.
I love that. Now, if you were to be remembered for one thing only, what would that be?
I don't think I'm a very memorable person. I like to think I'm very forgettable.
No, I don't think so.
I like to think that I'm very forgettable. But if there's one thing that I think I would be remembered for, is how passionate and unapologetic I am about women and children. I love women and children. I don't intend to have children of my own, but I love children. I really feel like it's very important for us to protect the children we have now, because if we mess it up with the children we have now, we're going to have messed up adults, and we're going to continue feeding into a vicious cycle. So I feel it's very important to like harness the children we have now and teach them as much as we can and love them as much as we can, so that they don't end up like us, you know, so they don't become like adults who have to deal with so many issues,
having to go for therapy.
Because I'm not going to lie to you, I feel like I've spent maybe half my life has been wasted in trying to build everything that has been broken and everything that was taken away from me. So if we can, you know, love the children enough as their children, we can hope for a better adult.
I absolutely love that. I feel like that's like one of the most selfless ideas of what you would like to be remembered for. Now, before I let you go, do you have anything you'd like to say to our listeners and viewers?
Yes, to the listeners, if you are being violated, leave that relationship, please, ASAP. Don't die for nothing, and don't make excuses. The relationship, stop making excuses for the man. He's not the only man who's going to love you. There's 10,000 other men, and if you don't find a man, it's okay to be alone. Like, find peace within yourself, find happiness within yourself. Like, you don't have to, you know, succumb to any kind of bad treatment just because you want to be loved. And don't focus on one kind of love. There's so many kinds of love. There's love that you can get from your friends, from your family. Try and cultivate that kind of love that's positive, that's good for you, other than fixating on a love from one person, a love that could most likely kill you. And please pay attention to the red flags. When you see something that's off about your partner, pay attention and don't tolerate that. And lastly, report. Report. If you report to one police station and they don't believe you, move on, go and report to another police station. And to the men, come and advocate for your own issues. Nobody's going to advocate for these issues for you.
Please and thank you.
Yes. Please and thank you.
Thank you so much for coming through, Rose. There you have it. If you're just joining us, you can always play back and listen to the episode or watch it. And yeah, special thanks to 17 Restaurant for the partnership. And of course, we've come to the end of the episode. And as per tradition, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please ensure that you're subscribed. And if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, on any other podcasting platform, be reminded that we're also on YouTube. Do check us out there, view us, and just comment. YouTube is good because you get to comment your experiences or your stories. Remember, this podcast is about storytelling. I want to hear your stories. Have you been victimized? Have you been violated in any way? Just let me know. I really love responding to comments and just getting to interact with you guys. And like I say, I'm going to say it again. I don't want to be known for what I'm against. I want to be known for what I'm for. And I am for people, regardless of who you are. I love you, but God loves you more. See you next week. Same time, same place. Bye for now.